Good morning. Today we are reviewing Unit 6. Tomorrow will be retake day, so if you have retakes you need to do, get your practice work done so we can get that taken care of tomorrow. Remember, I'm also after school on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so I'm after school today if you have stuff you need to get done. Practice test will be Monday, real test will be Tuesday. So we start Unit 6 with CO 44. I can interpret and write inequalities. Remember that we have this table to help us know which symbol we need to use for different words. That is something you're going to want to put on your help sheet. So you can look for those keywords so you know what symbol to put when we are using our verbal phrases. So less than, fewer, lower are all this symbol. Greater than, more, higher are all this symbol. And remember, when we've got the line underneath, it means it is not only less than, it's less than or equal to. Other ways we could see that expressed is the maximum amount of money you can bring is $5. So you can bring less than $5, you can bring $5, but no more. At most, you can bring is $5, or no more than $5. And we have the greater than or equal to. That would be the minimum. The minimum amount of time reading should be 30 minutes. So you have to read 30 minutes, but you can read more than that. You should read at least 30 minutes, or no less than 30 minutes. And if you had any other ones from the homework assignments that you included on there, include it on your help sheet. So when we are doing this objective, it's like the one we did for the last test where it's equal to, we're just going to include the symbol. So if they give you the expression, you write it out in words. So a number less than 12, a number lower than 12, right, using those words. And if they give you the words, you need to write what the expression is. So n is less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to what number? Okay. Any questions on this objective? All right, let's look at CO 45. And remember, if you didn't get it all written down, you should have it in your binder, or you can watch this video later to finish writing ones down. CO 45. I can use a number line to identify solutions to an equality. This is important. Remember, we had our steps for this. So step number 1 is you draw the number line. And remember, you put the number that is in your inequality. That is less than 12, you're going to put a 12 on the number line. Second step is you draw your circle. Open. If it can't be the number, so that means it's less than or greater than. closed if it can be the number that's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So you have to figure out what your circle is going to look like. Is it open or closed? Third step, draw an arrow. Remember, if it's less than, your arrow goes to the left. If it's greater than, your arrow is going to the right. So you're thinking, is my number less than 12? I'm going to go to the left. If it's greater than 12, I'm going to go to the right. So you have to think where your number is. Our number is supposed to be bigger. So this is numbers bigger, we go to the right, and numbers lower, we go to the left. So you need to see what your symbol tells you. Any questions on this one? You need to remember all three steps: number line, circle, open or close, and the arrow. Which direction is the arrow going? So all three steps need to be done for this objective. Then we have CO 46. I can solve inequalities with addition or subtraction. So remember, this is very similar to that opposite operations that we did, those one-step operations. But instead of equaling, we have our inequality symbol. So if we know that we need to follow SADMERP. SADMERP tells us that we are doing opposite. So we're looking at, are we adding or subtracting? Let's do the opposite of it. So n plus 8 is less than 17. You're going to do subtract 18 from both sides. So that would be n is less than 9. Then you have to do all three steps for graphing it like we did in the last objective. So you draw your number line, draw your circle, and the direction of your arrow. Remember, you cannot put the example on your help sheet, but remind yourself, opposite operations, and then steps 1 to 3 for graphing. Those same steps that we did in the last objective. So you need to remember opposite operation. If it's subtracting, we need to add to both sides. If it's adding, we need to subtract from both sides. And then we graph it just like we did in that last objective. Any questions on this one? All right, PO 47. Plotting our ordered pairs. This one we should be able to do. We practiced it a lot before Christmas, and we know how to graph. So this one, if you want, you could label your grid so you remember which one is X, which one is Y. Remind yourself that the X always comes first in the ordered pair. Some of us, yesterday when we were writing out our ordered pairs, we were putting the Y first and then the X, and it was putting us in the totally wrong spot. So you have to remember, X first, then Y. The X goes across, the Y goes up and down. Any questions on this one? This was the easier one, because we've done just plain old graphing before. Now we're gonna add on to that graphing, so it gets a little more complicated. So our next one, I can find the slope of a line using a coordinate pair. So remember that slope is how a line moves across the coordinate plane. So it's how that line moves. Might want to put definitions. Sometimes Mr. Schultz wants us to be able to tell him the definitions of what these vocab words mean. So you might want to put that definition of slope. Remember to find the slope. It's that vertical change over the horizontal change. I like to call it the rise over the run. Rise is either going up or down. If it goes up, our slope is positive. If it goes down, our slope is negative. Put something on there to remind you of that. If you are missing a negative sign, it will be wrong. So you need to remember, if your slope is going down, that means our line is going from left to right, it's going down, it's going to be a negative slope. The run means we go from the left to the right. So if our line, we're not going to write this because this is our example, but if our line is 1, 6, and 5, 3, when we graph it, it looks like this. To find that slope, you start on the left point, you go either up or down. My next point is going down, so I start right here and I count 1, 2, 3. I went down, so I know it's a negative. Then I count from there to the right, 1. So my slope is -3 over 1. So remember how to find that slope. Remember to check if it is negative. And what big thing do we need to remember to do with our slope? Because it looks like a fraction. Adeline? Simplify. Do not forget to simplify your slope. Check, is it positive or negative? Check, can you simplify it? Any questions on the slope? All right. Our next one is the function table. You might want to put the definitions for input, output, and function table. You never know when Mr. Schultz is going to ask for that. The input is what you put into the equation, that X. The output is what you get out of the equation, the Y. So your input, the X, you get to choose. The Y is you solve the equation with that number that you put in for the X. Remember, you can choose smart ones. So if it is a fraction, what kind of numbers do we want to choose? Bennett? Multiples of the denominator. That makes it easier so we don't have to work with fractions. Remember, when you do your input-output tables, you've got the X, you've got the Y. So you decide what you put in for X. So if I put in a 1, then it's 1 plus 1. I do the math to get the Y. So when you make your tables, you choose the X, you do the math, putting that X into your equation, and you get out your Y, your output. There will be ones with fractions. There will be negatives. So you choose which numbers you want to put in for the X that make it easy for you to work with. We know I like to do 1, 2, 3, 4, but sometimes that gets complicated when we're working with those negative numbers. Some of us said, oh, I'm multiplying a negative, I want to multiply it by another negative to make it easy numbers to work with, those positive numbers. If I'm working with the fraction, I like to multiply by the multiples of the denominator, so I get whole numbers. Fractions, I don't have to deal with them, I don't want to. You can, as long as you do your math correctly. Any questions on this one? Last objective, PO 50, I can graph a function using a function table. So step 1, find your ordered pairs. Step 2 is graph them. Step 3, this is the important one. When it says list an ordered pair not included on the table, what important thing do we need to find? Adeline? Yes, we need to find the slope and use that to find the ordered pair. Remember that the ordered pair that you give me for your answer cannot be one that was already used in that function table. Alright, so we have to go to one of those function table points, use the slope to go to a new point. There might be questions like, is this ordered pair found on the line? So if I graph this one, -3, -2, -1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. It might ask a question like, is the ordered pair, let's do 3, 3 on the line? So if it's asking me, is 3, 3 on the line, I need to go to one of those points that I know and use my slope. So I need to find my slope. My slope is 1 over 1. So I'm going to go here, 2, 3, and go up 1 over 1. That's 3, 4. So I know we have 2, 3, and 3, 4 on the line. Is the point 3, 3 on the line? No. So don't just plot that point 3, 3 and say, oh, it looks like it's on the line. It looks like it's not on the line, because sometimes when we draw that line, we get a little messy and it's not accurate. You have to use the slope, just like we use that slope to find a new ordered pair. Use that slope to see if it hits the ordered pair that he's asking about. Does that make sense? Kind of? Sort of? Thumbs up? How we feeling? Thumbs sideways? Okay, most of us are feeling pretty comfortable with this. Any questions? Okay, remember, we will also have that Math 6 review, M6, we'll have it M6 R5, because this is Unit 6, so we'll have our 5th review that we're going to do. So let's look to see, at the beginning, PO 16, PO 28, PO 39, PO 40. So let's look back at 40, because that's in this binder. PO 40, I can solve an equation with multiplication or division. Remember, use those opposite operations, use your logic. Ask that question, m times what number equals 30? 30, not m, 6 times what number equals 30? 30 divided by 6 equals what number? Okay, be able to use that multiplication and division. PO 39 was using that addition or subtraction. What number plus 12 equals 19? 19 minus 12 is what number? So use those opposite operations, use the logic. Any questions on those two objectives? All right, I don't think PO 28's in this. Nope, I have to open up binder number 1 for us to review the next unit, or the next two objectives. So let me get binder 1 open. Oh, no, not that one. Okay, so we need PO 16 and PO 28. PO 16. I can add and subtract fractions. What important rule do we need to remember when we are adding and subtracting fractions, Emma? You need to find those common denominators. You do not add or subtract that denominator. You need to find the common denominator. If you have to multiply that denominator by a number, whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Once you have common denominator for the bottom, then you can add or subtract your numerator. What is the final step that we do when we work with fractions, Lexi? Simplify. Do not forget to simplify. It will be wrong if you are supposed to simplify and you don't. Any questions on adding or subtracting? Okay. Then we have PO 28. PO 28, writing proportions and solving the proportions. Remember, we write them like those fractions. 2 cups for 3 batches equals 18 cups for 27 batches. If it says for how many batches, if you have a question mark there, we see how did I go from 2 to 18? I multiplied by 9. So 3 to question mark, I need to multiply by that 9. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. If you don't know what you multiplied up for, what do? What's that opposite we do, Sophie? Not multiply down. Divide. So if we don't know what we multiply up, 2 times what equals 18, you do 18 divided by 2 to find that 9. So if you don't know what you multiply up with, divide backwards to find what you're going to multiply your other number by. Any questions about this? All right, well, let's go ahead and put this away. If you are watching at home and you still have questions, please come and ask me. Have a wonderful day.